I'm Logan Webb, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, and this is episode 306 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me on this very hot fall day in October, which still doesn't make any sense, these Indian summer days, Eric Nathanson down in Arizona. You're probably even hotter than I am right now. We're getting a 102 today. What about you?
We're hitting 110, but it is, I'm done with the triple digits. Like, enough of this. There was a week, about 4 days, about a week and a half ago, where it was cool at night. Like, I actually had to put pants on. It was wonderful. It was the first time I'd put pants on in months. And then I'm back to shorts, year round. So I wish it were fall. The playoffs are starting, so it feels like fall. I'm watching Detroit and Houston right now. So, like, it's supposed to be October, but we're not quite there yet. We're sweating our way through.
I know we don't live in areas that traditionally have what you would traditionally call seasons, but I mean, California does, don't get me wrong. It's more like 2 seasons, not 4. But I do love this time of year when the heat hopefully subsides and we start getting those cooler days. Like you said, you can wear pants, a sweater, sweatshirt, a hoodie, something. And then, come March, I'm like, give me the sun. I need to try out, but yeah, I'm done with the triple digits here, man. Like even San Francisco yesterday got to 96 or 95. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah, could you
It's
imagine?
freaking October.
Could you imagine if the Giants were hosting a playoff game right now? It would be like in the 90s at Oracle Park. But
wow,
like that's gonna happen.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of which, obviously it's been more than a month since we got on the horn, and there's been a lot to talk about. But the biggest news really hit the wire 2 days ago. And after 6 years at the helm of all of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants, Farhan Zaidi was finally dismissed, relieved of his duties. And I think you and I were original proponents of this guy. And I was. I wrote a little piece for TortureCast. It was just a brain dump in like 15 minutes. It was just how I wanted to capture kind of my first thoughts and feelings of this move. So not a lot of high-level analysis here, guys, we're talking about. It was just more of a emotional dump.
Yeah, but that's kind of my favorite is when we have those, like, knee-jerks and, like, well, this is how I see this as a fan right now, Because you look back and things will be, different in 5 months.
Things are going to change, exactly. But I was a proponent of him, and even after, like, 2021, which we now know is an outlier, at the time, I did not believe was going to be an outlier, and I was wrong about that. And even after the 2022 season, I still was backing Farhan, saying, okay, well, they had a down year, but, they'll be back next year. Well, now it's been 2 additional seasons of mediocrity. And in those 6 years, aside from the 2021 miracle year with a franchise record 107 wins, of course, they got bounced in the DS by the Dodgers in the 5th game. I mean, that team really could have gone far. I mean, that 5th game was close. It could have gone either way. Who knows what would have happened? But other than that, the Giants had 1 year at 500, and the other 4 years were under 500. So he just didn't deliver, Eric. I thought he was going to. I really did think he was going to help turn this franchise around, and it just didn't stick. And I got a lot of initial thoughts on why, looking back at 6 years, why it didn't succeed. But let's move on to whom they replaced Farhan Zaidi with. And, of course, you all know by now, Buster Posey is the new president of baseball operations. And, man, it's one of those decisions where now I'm not surprised, but I was surprised because it's something that wasn't on my radar. We all joked about it, I think, in the past going, just give Posey the keys. And we kind of laughed at that, said, yeah, well, he has no experience doing this. It's, that's fine. He's going to help out in the periphery. But more importantly to me, I thought he wanted to be a part owner and be a little bit involved in the day-to-day operations, but be with his family, right? He has 4 kids. I mean, that's one of the reasons he retired earlier than he could have, was to be with his family. And now he's putting himself just 3 years after retirement, full bore into heading up the entire operations of baseball for the San Francisco Giants. That's not a 20-hour-a-week job, dude.
Yeah, it must be quieter at the Giants office. That's what I'm thinking. He's like, oh, now there's 4 kids around. There's noise everywhere all the time.
Right.
So, hey, what the hell? Yeah, all right, I'll do this for a little bit. Let's let the girls get a little older, get out of this toddler phases. This is the perfect timing for me. I'm with you, Buster. Like, we talked about it preseason, how he was going to have more of a voice at the table, more of a seat in the room. They stressed that at the beginning of the season. Little did we know that they were laying the groundwork for this exact move to happen if it were to get there, and it got there. So, I mean, I was also kind of like surprised but not surprised. Bags had that stuff leak out after the Chapman contract got done. And when he shared that Buster was a big part of that, that was the moment where I was like, oh, Buster could take over the whole operation. I was only concentrating on getting Farhan out. I wasn't even considering that Buster could be the one to take over the operation. And, why the hell not? The guy won 3 World Series as a player. He was a catcher, a leader. He knows how to lead. He's been in, the stuff with the team this year now. He understands the day-to-day operations. He's a smart guy. He definitely picks up on things. He likes to trust the right people. So, I mean, it's the perfect fit. I mean, what else do you need after what kind of turns into a disaster in Farhan Zaidi than the face of the franchise coming back and saying, all right, enough is enough. I mean, the Astros did it. Nolan Ryan, he did the same thing with them back in the day. And I'm sure there's some other great examples of that. But I'm happy. I love it. Anytime Buster Posey's in my life, I love it. He is a classic Giant, Now they have the conundrum in a couple of years when he gets elected to the Hall. Do they retire the number of the president of baseball ops?
I was thinking the exact same thing this morning. It's funny that you bring that up because I was going to ask you the exact same thing. He is eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2 years. He has a 3-year contract as president. So
he's still going to be there.
Yeah. Assuming he makes it first ballot, he's still going to be president. So that's going to be really kind of interesting, especially to see where the Giants are in 2 years. But I agree with your sentiment. I am excited about this. And look, I know that in the beginning, before results are out, you're just excited about it, right? This is like getting married. This is like your first day on the new job. This is, your first day out on the field throwing the ball. It's always fresh and it feels great and it's new and all of the hope is there. All of the dreams are there. And I wasn't this excited when Farhan was hired, obviously. But I was excited that this guy who had a proven track record with Oakland and the Dodgers was going to instill some, refresh the farm system, execute trades for quality players, and rebuild this team. And that just didn't happen. So I share my excitement and joy about this hiring of Buster Posey. And I think right off the bat, he's got a year, maybe 2 years of a little bit of a grace period, mostly because, the new guy always is going to have a year of grace. Like that's just, you can't turn around a franchise in 1 year. But I think
especially baseball with farm systems and depth and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not like the NFL where your number 1 draft pick is starting quarterback game 1. This is where your number 1 draft pick might see the major leagues in 3 or 4 years at the earliest. So this is something that is going to take some time. But I do believe he has additional time in terms of that grace period because of who he is. He's Buster freaking Posey. And I think Giants fans are going to have a little bit more patience with him. The problem with that whole scenario is the fact that, the patience is already worn thin with Farhan. So it's like, it's going to be interesting to reset those expectations and to rebuild that patience. But I think most Giants fans are especially the Fire Farhan brigade, are going to have some of that too. Now, you did bring up the Bags story, and I was going to bring that up too, because Bags leaked, according to his sources, that Buster Posey was instrumental in getting Chapman to sign for the long-term deal, the 6 years or whatever it was. And Susan Slesser said, her sources said that that's not true and kind of went against it. So there was a little bit of friction between, not the two personally, but just the stories. And, you know, I know that Boris denied a lot of stuff that was reported by Baggerly. And so some people were like, oh, Bags is lying again. He's just trying to get his name out there. Well, I mean, yesterday, Greg Johnson himself, here's his direct quote from the press conference. We kept hearing that Chappie was frustrated, nothing was getting done, and yet we weren't getting any kind of response from the agents back and forth with Farhan. And that's really where Buster just reached out and said, hey, let's get together and talk. And that's how things moved along as we did it direct. There you go. From the freaking one of the owners of the Giants.
I mean, that's great management skills.
It is.
Is it not what Buster did there? That's absolutely, he took it took it by the horns and said, okay, you want to get this done, we want to get this done, why are we screwing around? Let's talk about this and see what we can do. And you know, I think that's an indication. The press conference, just the things he has said so far are an indication of just how different this is going to be. Buster does not think he's the smartest guy in every room.
Not at all.
Farhan did. Buster knows what he doesn't know. You know, he understands that he doesn't know everything. And so he's going to try to surround himself with people that are going to know the things he doesn't know. Now, Farhan tried to surround himself with people who thought like him. You know, it was interesting that Buster's said Pete's going to find a different spot in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
That to me really surprised me with Pete Patilla. You know, so who does he hire as the general manager? And at that point, you know, there was something, you know, Slesser, you bring up. She responded to something yesterday. Certainly sounds as if, you know, she tweeted, it certainly sounds as if Posey plans to let Bob manage as he sees fit. Preparations as a group, of course, but the lineup and in-game decisions, those are going to be Melvin's.
Yeah.
And somebody asked her about it, saying how much was Zaidi pressing Melvin on the lineups and stuff. And our good friend Susan responded with, most decision-making happened at the top level, meaning Zaidi was putting his fingers into everything. Buster's not going to do that. He's not going to be hands-off, but he's the type of guy that's going to say, I hired you for a reason. I got you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to try to oversee and dabble in every little thing. You know, I'm going to trust my hitting coaches to do the hitting coach. I'm going to trust my pitching coaches to do the pitching coach. And I think that's just going to make a world of difference as far as culture and things like that go with the Giants. So it adds to his grace period, you know. He's going to get at least 3 years. They got to give him. I mean, they have to be like, not even White Sox level bad. They have to be 100 loss level bad one time in the next 3 years for them to even consider moving on from Buster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to be that bad for that to happen. And I have no idea if it's the right move or not. But I mean, it's why not take the shot? If he's willing to do it and he wants to be the leader of the San Francisco Giants, I mean, that's a guy you want to get behind, right? Somebody who wants the job, not to prove that they're the smartest, but to make the team win. So I don't want to say I'm overly excited about Buster, but it makes you feel better about the direction of the organization as a whole, because we could postmortem Farhan to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad he's gone, because we started out as the in Farhan we trust. And I was declaring on this show earlier this season, I want Farhan fired.
Yep.
And I'm very happy it happened, you know. One winning season, that was an anomaly. We thought shift change was the way to go. We thought working the splits was it, but there's a reason why this has never had long-term success, and Farhan's kind of the example of that, I thought. I mean, is that what you saw? Is that the Giants said, you know, we've had enough of this and we need to move on from just analytics, and we need to try to just go back to old school baseball and approach things in a team manner?
100%. I know that Buster Posey's last year was 2021, and that was their successful year, and he had probably his second best year in his career behind his MVP season of 2012. And that's why I think a lot of Giants fans were a little bit upset that he was retiring, because he still had something to prove. Or he didn't have anything to prove. He already did that. He came back from the injuries, and he proved that he was as good as we thought he was. But he had energy left in the tank. I mean, Eric, he's 37 right now. I mean, he retired at age 34. Think about that, right? He probably still could have played through till this year, maybe an extra 3 years on on his career he probably could have done. He probably could go out there right now and still hit 240, which is good for the Giants.
He might be the best hitter on the
Exactly.
team. I mean, that's the joke that's going around.
That is the joke going around, that he could put himself on the roster next year and still probably be one of the better players. He expressed some discontent about the way the platoon situation and the splits and the heavy rotation and the revolving door on the roster was in 2021. Yes, it worked for that 1 year, but as it's shown the years subsequent to that, the last 3 years, it didn't work at all. And there was much fatigue with the fans, much fatigue with the players. There's been reports and grumblings that certain players who have even been there for more than a year or two, they don't know what their role is. It changes all the time, from batting second to batting ninth to starting to not starting in platooning to being off, out of games for 5 days in a row. They just don't know what's going to happen. The fans frustrated because there's no consistency in the roster. There's no player you can hang your hat on other than maybe a Logan Webb, right? Now that Brandon Crawford was gone. So you just don't even have that franchise icon anymore to root for, to buy the jersey of. Plus, you don't know if the guy was going to be freaking traded. Look what they did with Jorge Soler and other players like him. They signed him to a 3-year deal. We're all excited about it, going, hey, this offseason, they were a little bit more traditional in what they did, right? Farhan might have actually heard the complaints. Maybe there was pressure from Johnson and ownership group going, look, guy, you need to do something about this. We need to get some quality talent here, not all these quote diamonds in the rough or peripheral.
Right, fringe guys.
Yeah, all these fringe guys. He did great with fringe guys. I'm not going to debate that. But he didn't get any quality guys, right? I mean, I love Yaz. Yes. I love, Wade Jr. These guys are good players. Are they your cornerstones in the outfield and in the infield? No, not at all. And that's what is so frustrating about it. So he's really good finding those diamonds in the rough. But that fills out a roster. It's not the core of your roster. And I think that's what the problem was.
Matt Chapman's become that. You brought up Craw, and there was almost, and I think you would kind of agree, there was almost this disdain in the way that Farhan and Kapler kept Craw in the lineup every day. It was almost like, well, we're going to do all this analytic stuff, but we're just going to leave Craw alone. And it like bugged them that they couldn't just do what they wanted to do with that position, that they had to deal with the longtime mainstay, stuff like that. And it's just not the right way to approach things, thinking that what is right in every situation just because some number says something somewhere in some favorable matchup. There's other times that other things come into play, and they just don't do that. You have to wonder if Buster will attract bigger name free agents. Now, excuse me, sorry. I don't necessarily mean like they're going to like clamor to be there, but I think just the culture itself, like in what I was talking about earlier, they're not going to be like, oh, I want to go play for Buster Posey. But if they're like, oh, this team seems serious about taking care of X players, and if you do well here, look at what you get, and wasn't Buster a Boris client?
You know what? I don't remember.
Doesn't he have a good relationship with Scott Boras?
That's a great question.
I'll bet you he does. Buster Posey spot rack. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Buster was represented by Boris. So you got to think that that's got to be a good thing with these high-profile negotiations going forward. Oh, it says Jeff Barry, CAA Sports, but CAA, I believe, is Boris. So, but it's just, there's not this disdain. Farhan, took everything as a battle, and Buster's going to bring everything as a we approach.
Right.
And it's a culture shift, a complete just change in philosophy for the ball club. We finally have a direction. I've been screaming for 2 years, what's the direction of the ball club? We don't really even know what it is yet. But, Melvin's going to get to manage next year. Maybe Taylor Rogers will be used in some high leverage situations instead of the fourth inning when the starting pitcher
can't
get through the fourth inning.
That. It's weird.
Right, moves like that. And if Farhan was pulling the strings at the top, that means he was the one that didn't want Taylor Rogers. Then why did you sign him, Farhan, for 3 years and $33 million?
Right.
What's the point here? You went out on a limb for him and then shut him down. That's just one example. I'm so happy looking forward. I really am. I have no expectations. I think that's the best thing. I have no expectations. You know what I mean?
No,
it's not like, oh, great, Buster's taking over. Right, we kind of have to wait and see what happens. We're in a decent spot where we won. Our team won 3 World Series 10 years ago, so we can afford to at least give Buster a couple of years to take the reins and see what happens.
Well, Buster Posey is a catcher, and we all know that so many catchers make excellent managers. We've seen this in Bruce Bochy, Bob Melvin. Look at Stephen Vogt with Cleveland, what he did with that team this year, which, by the way, of course, the Giants interviewed Vogt for this past year, and we were both like, it probably wouldn't be a bad hire. He was a leader on the field. Mike Krukow the other day, and I know he's a homer, I get it, but he said all these things about Buster Posey way back when. When he came in the clubhouse in 2010 as a rookie, he had his cup of coffee in 2009, but as a solid, roster person in 2010, everyone just kind of treated him like a veteran because he had that presence of being a veteran. You had all these big personalities on the team, from Panda to Brian Wilson, Brandon Belt, right? These guys who were vocal, funny, had personalities or whatever. Buster wasn't that guy. He was the quiet leader, and everyone says that he could absolutely be a red ass when it needed to be. Whenever they needed a tongue lashing, whenever they needed to kind of get set back on the right track, Buster Posey was the guy who did that. And look what he did with the pitching staff. He called all of those games, and especially when Bruce Bochy was pushing all the right buttons in the postseason with the bullpen, Buster was still calling the pitches, and he knew how to play to the strengths of each of those pitchers, and it turned into 3 World Series championships in those 3 playoff appearances. And I just kind of hold that akin to what he can do now. Like you said, he's not going to be like a Farhan where I'm the smartest in the room. He's going to be like, I'm a decently smart guy. I kind of know baseball, but I'm going to surround myself with people who will not only know more than me in certain areas, but will share ideas, and hopefully there'll be different ideas, right? I don't want someone who agrees with me in every single situation.
Right.
He said that. And I bet you Farhan liked people who agreed with him because he did have a little bit of that ego. Now, Bob Melvin, he said, Buster called for the ball, and we're giving it to him. And that's kind of that euphemism that I think is very appropriate here. And Bob Melvin left San Diego because ownership was too controlling in what he did. And that was one of the reasons he came to San Francisco. And I wonder, because it does sound like now all this information's coming out that management, specifically Farhan and team, had a lot more control over the daily lineups than we, I guess, previously thought or were led to believe. If Bob Melvin knew that coming in, suspected it coming in, or maybe he got promises that were not kept, and he might be the happiest guy, out of the entire Giants franchise, with Buster saying, no, this is Bo Mel's team. He is going to be able to run it the way he wants to. And it really seemed to address the fact that, he had Big Brother, Big Farhan, looking over and pushing all the buttons. And I kind of feel for him in that regard because he did make a lot of questionable moves this year. Not saying that Farhan was behind every single one of those questionable decisions, but maybe he felt like he couldn't be the manager he normally is because of that oversight. I don't know.
Like it's tough to gauge him now. It's tough to look at his year and be like, well, Bob did this and Bob did this, because was it really Bob? I'm totally with you on that. I'm actually totally willing to give Melvin a pass on this year, learning more about how much Farhan pulled the strings up top. So, it's kind of fresh eyes. It's really refreshing. I hate to use that word after saying fresh, but it is. It's refreshing. It's nice to. It's nice to feel positive about it. The Giants are going to give the right players fair shakes right now. They're not just going to try to insert their guys into it. Guys like Luis Matos aren't going to get jerked around anymore.
Right.
Marco Luciano, they're going to have more defined roles. It makes me wonder, with Eldridge moving his way through the system, was that actually a Buster thing, or was that Farhan who was pushing that button? Mm-hmm. And I think we'll see next year. Eldridge will probably get a major league invite to spring training. And we'll see if Buster was pushing that or not. But it's a whole new world, It's Buster Posey's world, and we're just living in it. So if he can bring back Rennell, so we can hear her announce all our favorite people, that would be the best part of it all. I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I doubt that too.
Still has to work with the Johnsons, but that would be like his crowning achievement,
Before I ask you on who he might surround himself with, I did want to go ahead and read his letter to the fans that he sent out yesterday after the press conference. So this is what he wrote to. If you subscribe to the Giants newsletters, this is what came out. It's also all over social media if you want to check it out. But he titled it, "Here's to the Years Ahead." After meeting with the media earlier today to talk about the news of my new role as the president of baseball operations, I wanted to reach out to you directly to let you know how excited I am for what we will build together to bring championship baseball back to San Francisco. In making my decision to lead baseball operations, I was motivated by two key factors: our fans and our players. I know firsthand what an incredibly loyal fan base we have, and I want to do all I can to put in place the next great team for all of you to fall in love with. Like my Giants colleagues, I care so much about this organization, our team, our city, and each of you. For any team to be successful, it is not about one person, and together, with Bo Mel as our manager, we will build the best baseball team we possibly can. This is an incredible opportunity and privilege, and I look forward to assembling a team that encompasses the spirit, character, and talent of our Hall of Famers, all of whom I was honored to meet: Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, Willie McCovey, Gaylord Perry, and Juan Marichal. To the greats I've gotten to know, like Will Clark and Barry Bonds, to my teammates like Madison Bumgarner, Matt Cain, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, and Tim Lincecum. I know there's a lot to learn, and I'm so excited to get started. Like each of you, I'm a Giants fan. My family are Giants fans, and it's important to me that we deliver a team that will create memories and experiences for this generation and future generations of Giants fans. Thank you for the support you have given me and my family since we first arrived in San Francisco back in 2009. The Bay Area is home, and here's to the years ahead. I mean, that's a pretty good letter. I usually kind of gloss over these letters. They're just boilerplate,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I'm excited for this opportunity. We'll build a great team. He focused on the legacy, the history of the Giants. He focused on the pride of the organization. He focused on building memories and things that you can be proud of as a fan and as a player. And I think that really resonates. And I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I mean, the guy is from Georgia.
It's
He
not.
didn't grow up. He
Yeah.
grew up an Atlanta Braves fan, for God's sakes. He didn't care about the San Francisco Giants. But the way they treated him and his success, and he saw what this team can be, and he saw what the city can do, and how they can come together to support this city, and how new icons were built in this city, including himself. He understands the value of that. He probably hears all the stories all the time. And I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about. He may not succeed as president of baseball operations, but he's going to try to succeed in a completely different format and way than Farhan did. He's not going to run this as a fantasy team. He's going to run this as
Right.
as a family. And I think that is going to go miles with the fans.
It's Buster just wants to be part of a team and he wants to win. That's really what it seems to be. He really enjoys all of that and he wants to have the challenge of doing that. And now that, being an icon in San Francisco, he knows what that's like. And so he kind of says, well, hey, when I'm part of a team and that team does well, look at the joy that all these other people get from it. And I think that's why he includes everybody in it, because it, like, literally reflects back to him. This is the same guy. You remember, he put his house up for sale a while back,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, "Oh, Buster's just packing it in and going back to Georgia." And look at this. He couldn't stay away. He could not stay away. He bought into the team, and now he's the president. It just, he has it in his blood, and it's really cool. It's kind of neat to be a franchise that's doing that. The more I talk about it, the more I get excited about it, and it blows my mind that this man is younger than both of us. You know what I mean? This is
By a
this is
lot.
where we are. This man, who is younger than both of us, not only has played his entire Hall of Fame career and won 3 titles, he's now the president of the team that he led to do that. All within, a span of, what'd you say, 09, 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible run of 15 years. And I hope that means it gets to be 20, 25, 30. He'll step away if he wins, he'll step away when he wants to.
Sure.
And that's, I think, for him, he likes being a part of a winning team, and he likes bringing the joy to everybody around him, and that's why he's the quiet leader. He's the one that surveys and, oh, everybody's getting out of line, I got to get them back in the line, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going nuts, I'm not going to go as nuts. You know what I mean? I'll never forget, though, when they got that out, Nelson Cruz, 2010, young Buster running out to Brian Wilson, him looking at the dugout, looking at Wilson, looking at the dugout, looking at Wilson. He didn't know where to go, what to do.
Yeah.
That kid is now running the Giants. It's just
Uh,
it's kind of a neat story. It really is. And I hope it goes well. I really hope it goes well. I don't think his legacy gets tarnished in any way if it doesn't go well. He
yeah.
is still a Hall of Fame player. He is still one of the greatest catchers in the history of the game and the greatest catcher in the history of the Giants. So
Yeah.
I think his legacy stays intact.
Yeah, I agree. And my initial thoughts I kind of shared, and I obviously put that question here in the notes, which you just referred to. Will his legacy be tarnished if he fails? And no, I don't think it'll be tarnished. It was kind of more of not a rhetorical question, but just kind of a wondering, right? Like, there's not many examples of, kind of beloved athletes running their team's
Right.
day-to-day operations. You have Chris Mullin in the Bay Area. Unfortunately, he did not do well with the Warriors, but no one boos him now. He's still beloved by Warriors fans, right? They don't hate Chris Mullin because he didn't bring a championship to this team when he was running it, right? You have
Lakers fans don't hate Magic Johnson.
I was about to say Magic Johnson, who had a couple years of success, but other than that, no. And so, yeah, no one hates him. You have Isaiah Thomas when he was running things. He was really bad,
Oh
but
my God.
no one
he-
hates Isaiah Thomas. So Nolan Ryan, with the Astros, it goes on and on and on. And there's not too many examples of just great success by a former player for their own team. Now you have other players like a John Lynch, who's a Hall of Famer safety for the Buccaneers, is running things for the 49ers. And yes, they have not won a Super Bowl, but they're perennial contenders under his management, right? So he's been a pretty rock solid success. So you have a few examples like that. And then there's a whole list I shared in the article of failures. We've seen that too. So I agree with you, Eric. It's, if they're under 500 or don't make the playoffs the next 3 years, it's not a failure. And if they remove him, they remove him. I agree with you in the sense of if it got really bad, like White Sox bad, where they're losing 100 and something games for a couple of years, yeah, that wouldn't be good. But even at that point,
it can't happen.
Yeah.
Buster Posey can't have his name attached to anything like that. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Like he literally would will that out of existence. It just could never happen.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a Midas touch to him, right? So he's everywhere he's gone, he's pretty much succeeded. So I expect him to succeed here, and so that ties into that question I had for you on who he might surround himself with. Now, he talked about a general manager he will hire. And Pete Putila is going to be with the organization, but elsewhere in the organization. It wasn't defined. But he did say that he wants a general manager with a scouting background. And I thought that was really important. They of course, they asked the obligatory question, are you going to rely on analytics? And he basically said, yeah, I'd be an idiot not to use analytics. But he's not saying that's going to be the sole defining trait of a draft or a trade or a whatever. It's like, let's just look at numbers, beep, beep, boop, boop. No, but of course you still want to look at analytics. It still tells you a lot, especially pitchers with velo and spin rates, contact rates for batters, their walk rates and all that stuff. But he's not going to run this like Farhan. He's not going to run this like Moneyball. But like you said, you'd be stupid not to use analytics. But I was excited about potentially using a GM that has that scouting background. And I think that's really important, Eric, because you and I are not baseball experts. We've lived around baseball and played baseball and watched baseball our entire lives. So we're more knowledgeable than your average person, but we don't have near the level of expertise of a Buster Posey or a person who's been a scout in the system for a long time. But I think you would agree that there are just certain players that you don't need to see their stats. You see them out on the field and they pass the eye test.
Right.
And we're talking about guys who even throw the ball over first base or strike out a lot, but they have the mechanics, the look and feel, the fluidity of a person you're like, that guy is going to go far if he can put it all together. And that's one thing that Farhan certainly didn't rely upon. It was purely analytics. And so I'm hoping that they do bring a little bit of that classic scouting into the mix, which it sounds like he will.
Fluidity. What a word that nails it. Like you look at a guy like Grant McCray.
Oh yeah, he looks so good out there. It's true.
He does. He absolutely does. And you'd like to think that he's going to get an extended look to be, the fourth outfielder next year. I'm not always sure. Farhan does looked at the numbers, and that's fluidity is a great word to describe how these ball players move.
Yeah. So we'll see, and I wonder how much Buster will rely on former teammates. I think it would be a mistake to just hire nothing but former teammates, and he's not going to do
Pitching
that.
coach Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I think they could create a few extra new positions, like director of agriculture would be Tim Lincecum, things like that.
Tim
So.
Lincecum. Let Timmy smoke.
Oh, baby, new head of catering,
He's in charge
Ryan
of therapy.
Vogelsong.
Yeah, he's in charge of herbicide. Is it herbicidal therapy? What would it be called?
Oh my God.
Herbal therapy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tim Lincecum, herbal therapist. That's what that. There you go.
It's perfect, right? I mean, they've created all these other
now.
different positions for like specialty care of players. So why not? They have sports psychologists and things like that, yoga instructors.
You know what's cool though is Buster's doing the hands-on thing. Like we have all these guys that are like Dusty at this point is in a nominal role,
Right.
but Buster's going to lean on a guy like Dusty. He's going to not be afraid to be like, Dusty, we got this, this, and this. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll take it into consideration. And if the buck stops with Buster, he'll make the decision where the buck stops with him. But it won't be without everybody's input. So yeah, that's the main thing. It's what a distraction. This team went 80-82. They've had one winning season in the entire Farhan era. They've made the playoffs, Chad, twice since they last won the World Series, and both times lost in the NLDS. And then we get this stupid stat thrown in our face.
Oh my Lord!
Did you see that?
Yes, I know which one you're talking about. Since 1990, right? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, teams that are down 3+ runs in the 8th inning or later or something, or won in whatever, and the only team to win was the Cubs in Game 4 against the Giants in 2016. It's
that
ridiculous.
Made me so angry. Like I knew it was rare. Like obviously it's rare. It's just 3-run lead in the playoffs in the 9th inning. So yeah, I wish I could find it right now because
we're just out here catching strays like it's nothing.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it was a ridiculous number. I'll bring it up here on my phone.
Like 538 or something.
Yeah, it was in the 500s,
maybe,
so I guess we don't need the exact number. But basically, teams were 1 in 500 and something when being down by more than 3 or more runs entering the 9th inning since 1990 in the playoffs. And it's like, I know some people are like, oh, well, in the 1980s it happened like 3 times. It's like, yeah, right. It says since 1990. Think about that. That's almost 600 times that has happened. And only one time did the other team win, and that was against the Giants and the Cubs. And now, granted, they would have flown back to Chicago, and they still would have needed to play Game 5. And Johnny Cueto was scheduled to start that game. It's just that it was one of those even year things, and it would not have surprised me, Eric, to see them pull out another rabbit out of their hat, because they did it in obviously 2012 with the 9 or 10 straight elimination game wins. And now, you have 2016. It looked like it might happen again. They easily could have gone to Chicago and won that game. Who knows? And, what would have happened after that? But
it's crazy, though, because, like, that team, 2021, we now know is a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
And those are the 2 playoff teams that we've had in 10 years. Those 2 teams. That's it. They haven't even sniffed the playoffs. They haven't even been eliminated on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
I was so tired of hearing Farhan say, we're just 1 good week away. Yeah, but you know what? So is half the fucking league, Farhan. They're just 1 good week away. The problem is the other team has to have 1 bad week at the exact same time. But no, don't sell us that big again. Oh, we have the best rotation in baseball. Man, I'm so happy Farhan's gone. I just...
Yeah, I found it. You were right. Postseason since 1990, teams are 1 win and 538 losses when trailing by 3+ runs entering the 9th inning. The only one being Cubs defeated Giants 2016 Game 4 NLDS. 539 times. 539 times. And only 1 loss. Anyway, that doesn't hurt at all. And I remember...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're out here taking strays.
I remember how bitter we were about that. And because, at the time, let's be honest, whenever you see a team have, quote, too much success, the 29 other fan bases are against you. The Giants became just like people were tired. They were tired of the Giants winning every other year. They was like, dude, like you're becoming like the Yankees, right? And so that year, I remember I had so many friends going, dude, you won 3 championships. Just shut up. You know, you can't get your 4th in 7 years? Tough shit. It's like, yeah, but I'm a Giants fan still. And they shouldn't have lost that game. God damn it. Anyway.
Well, I mean, here we are 10 years from the last championship, and it's, the second reset. So it's kind of like, okay, I think it's time for us to, have some expectations going forward. I always said I'm good if they win one in my lifetime, they never have to win again.
I know.
They won 3. We had that whole discussion, but Buster being part of the reset it makes it that much cooler. It washes away all the bitter feelings from this season because there were some they were the most mediocre of mediocre ball clubs this year. They really, really were. They beat the bad teams for the most part. They got beat by the good teams for the most part. They were a 500 ball club. They would go on streaks where they lost. They would go on streaks where they won. They go on streaks where they scored. They go on streaks where they couldn't score. They were just the epitome of an average ball club, and hopefully they can get out of that because, I mean, we've had like 2-3 straight years of this crap now of average ball clubs. So, I mean, there's not much to recap as far as the highlights of the year. We had Snell no-hitter, but like, what else did they have?
I mean, yeah, they had the no-hitter. Yeah.
Ramos hitting the ball.
Ramos with the first right-handed hitter to hit one into McCovey Cove. I mean, it's like that's what you have to hang your hat on. It's kind of sad. I mean, look, we got a little spoiled there for 5 years, 7 years, whatever you want to call it, but it is what it is. So I do want to remind you, since we were kind of talking about the glory days of 2014, 10 years ago yesterday, this happened.
And the curveball is hit high and deep to right field. It is gone. Brandon Crawford silences the crowd here in Pittsburgh with a grand slam.
Oh my God, I missed that.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
what a night.
That was an incredible. I was going absolutely bonkers when he hit that one. And again, that was when the wild card was 1 game, and they slipped in with that victory, and of course went all the way. So as we move on here, because I know we talked a lot about Buster Posey, which deserves it. Believe me, if they were talking about this on KMBR, and I don't think it was hyperbole. Brian Murphy in the morning, again, he's another massive Giants homer, but he was calling one of this announcement as one of the biggest off-field days in Giants franchise history. And
I agree.
I think it's right up there in like the top 2 or 3. I mean, this is monumental in terms of an off-season, off-the-field kind of thing. I mean, obviously you had, the signing of Barry Bonds in 1993. I'd say that's pretty high up there because we knew what his potential might be. We had no idea how good he would be. But yeah, I'm trying to think of all the off-the-field kind of things they've done before.
Trading for Bruce Bochy, getting Bruce Bochy from San Diego.
Well, that ended up being one, but at the time we didn't know. We thought it was just a mundane thing. I just think, this is such a huge thing.
I don't think we know right now either, though. And I get that that's why he's stuck on that, is because, like, most people aren't going to see it. Like, if this turns into, like, something great, this was a shift of a day. It was the biggest. It was one of the, let's see, Willie, maybe the day they announced Willie was coming back from the Army. I mean, the hell, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow. The Bonds one is a great comp, though. The Bonds signing in.
Oh, I saved the paper for that. I still have it in my. I have a little tub of Giants and sports memorabilia, and I have a lot of the papers from various things. I still have that newspaper from November of 1993, when they November of 1992. Yeah, going into the 93 season.
Well, that's the other thing is Peter McGowan keeping the club in San Francisco. That's another
one up there. That's a huge one.
One of those. Yeah, this could end up being one of those pillar days in the history of this ball club.
Yeah.
Off-season days, like the change of the ball club.
Yeah, I'd say the announcement of Oracle Park or AT&T Park or Pac Bell Park or whatever the hell it was called back then. I'd say getting the new stadium was massive as well after they saved the franchise. That was pretty good too. But All right, I wanted to get in just to a couple of cumulative things at the end of this season that we didn't have a chance to over the last month. But I don't know. I guess I'll do the stats first, and then I'll ask you these questions. But we already talked about Matt Chapman as being kind of that regular guy, that one dude that you might actually buy his jersey, right? Not only because he was great with the Giants this year, but now he's going to be with the franchise probably through the end of his career, right? No players yet to hit 30 home runs after Bonds, and Chapman got within 3. He finished with 27, 78 RBI, 39 doubles. He led the team in all 3 of those categories, tied with Ramos with a 791 OPS, and then he by far had the most at-bats on the team because of all the platoons and injuries, right? He had 575 at-bats, which was 100 more than Ramos. So, yeah, he's the guy that I know some people were like kind of, I don't know if he's really as good as you guys think. I don't know, 27 bombs in Oracle Park, not bad. Almost 800 OPS, not bad. Right. He's not Aaron Judge, we get that. And stellar defense at third base, I'll take it. So I think he's going to be a good Giant for a few years to come. Let's hope he can stay healthy. Logan Webb, the workhorse that he is, led the majors again, 204 innings pitched and 2/3, I should say. He ended up racking up 13 wins and 172 Ks. Blake Snell, I wanted to ask you about this too. He ended up with a 3.12 ERA, Eric, after...
Yeah, I don't know how.
I mean, that is amazing, but this is... So he ended up pitching 104 innings, which is only about half of what Logan pitched. He had 145 Ks in those innings and a 1.05 whip. Those are all great numbers. But since he returned from the injured list, after he had his 11-point-something ERA, and we were like, oh my God, he's already given up almost as many runs as he did all of last year. Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah, that's right.
Since July 7th when he came back, 1.23 ERA, a 123 batting average against, only gave up 2 home runs in 80 innings pitched, 80 and a third. In those 80 and a third, he gave up 33 hits, Eric. 33 hits in 80 innings. That's freaking insane, right? Now, he did have 30 walks, but his whip was still .784. What? What? And the Giants, in those 14 starts, went 12-2 since he came back. That is insane.
Could you...
God damn.
Imagine if he comes back. And I since everything's changed, I don't know what to think anymore.
I don't either.
There were guys that I would think, oh, they're not coming back because they don't want to deal with Farhan. Certain kind of guys. And Snell, I could see buying into what Buster's selling. So imagine if he comes back, and imagine if he doesn't suck at the beginning of the year while he's not healthy, and he has a full off season. You know what I mean, with the ball club and gets into spring training at a normal time. Imagine him over a full season doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how he was able to lower his ERA like that to 3.12. I mean, that's just amazing. And the fact that his first win of the season was the no-hitter.
That's right. And he ended up only, having 3 wins, I think, or 5 wins the entire year? Because even some of his excellent starts were just no decisions.
He went 5-3.
Yeah,
he was 0-3 when he threw the no-hitter, and he went 5-3. he had 20 starts, 104 innings pitched. You're right. That's just
5 wins.
That's ridiculous.
5 wins.
I mean, could you imagine? Oh my God, it was fun to watch him. It wasn't the Blake Snell that I was expecting.
Right.
I think if he comes back, it'll be less of the Blake Snell I was expecting because, he got jerked around with analytics. But, I mean, this guy showed it. That night in Cincinnati, I mean, he was a bulldog. He was getting through that game. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He was getting that no-hitter. He did not care. So, I Snell, what a turnaround. It blew my mind because his first start, the Diamondbacks scored 17 runs or some crap like that.
It was like, oh, wow, that's a nice $30 million wasted.
Right, we totally thought it was. And, I mean, it was kind of a waste because they didn't get anywhere. But it was fun to watch him pitch. It really was. I mean, the guy just pounds the fucking strike zone. These guys are just swinging and missing. His curveball's just disappearing under the bat.
Just drops out of nowhere. It's not quite Barry Zito-like, but it's because it's got more horizontal movement than Zito's. But it just disappears in that back foot to righties. And it just was so beautiful to watch. you know, and
I mean, you're swinging on that plane, you know what I mean? And it
yeah.
just goes under your bat every time.
And I do think that Buster heading up things increases the chances of re-signing Snell because, look, we know he's already opting out, and he's opting out for two reasons. One, to sign with another team for a hell of a lot of money. But number two, the Giants can still re-sign him for a hell of a lot more money. And he's expressed an interest, at least publicly, in coming back to San Francisco. But he's not expressing the interest in just opting into his $30 million. He's going to go out and try to get 35 or 40 or 45. Who knows what he could get?
Right.
But he and his agent are going to use that post-injury stat line. Not his 3.12, which is excellent, but they're going to use his 1.23, going, oh, yeah, no, I had issues. I had late spring. I didn't have spring training. Then I had some bugaboo issues. So anyway, I got everything set. I had my spring training. I had my injury get healed or whatever, and look what I could do. And that was the majority of his season because he had 100 innings, but post-injury it was 80 innings. So they can kind of look at that. And so I do hope the Giants sign him because, look, they went 12-2 when he came back. 12-2.
Right.
12-2, Eric. If he was just
I'll take that.
If he was just 6-6, the Giants would have won 74 games this year, right? So, and that's a huge difference in the standings. If they actually had a decent team and he can pull off a 12-2 or a 14-3 or an 18-5 over a whole course of a season, that could absolutely be the difference in the postseason or not. I'm 100%. So I think he is critical to sign, given what he did this year. We'll see. Also in the pen, Ryan Walker came out of nowhere and was just amazing. 10-4 now. A lot of those are the relief wins, which whatever. 1.91 ERA, a 0.85 WHIP, and 10 out of 14 saves. But again, some of those blown saves are ticky-tacky, things in the 7th or 8th inning that happened earlier. Camilo Duvall just melted down. He just was not the all-star he was the previous year, and so the Giants at least had a silver lining with Ryan Walker coming out of nowhere and providing that role. And we'll talk about it in the offseason, not now, but it'll be interesting to see what they do going into spring training next year. I think both are on the roster or under contract for next year to see what happens there. And maybe they go with option C. So who knows?
That's the one thing I thought is there could be an option.
Yeah,
C.
sure.
We forgot Jung-Hoo Lee started the season. You remember that guy?
Who?
Jung-Hoo Lee.
Who? Sorry, it's his middle. Who?
I totally missed it.
Going who on?
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
he lost his war with the wall. So I'd be curious to see when he comes back. Like Snell, it leaves me wanting more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys because like Chapman, you said it. The guy's rock solid. He is just one of those above average, rock solid, cornerstone type players, and he's on a corner for years and years. Webb is the same thing. Webb is the new Matt Cain. Webb might be better than Matt Cain. Webb is better than Matt Cain.
I like that evolution of opinion there. That was good.
Well, because I think I realized as I'm saying it that it's kind of true. Webb continues on this trajectory. I mean, he's like Hall of Fame numbers type stuff after a while.
Well, he is.
Like the guy is just a horse, and he gets ground balls better than anybody.
The thing I like about him, he grew up an A's fan, obviously from Sacramento, but he has adopted the Giants as his team. And not only we see him take a hometown discount for his contract extension, and let's be honest, that was a discount, a major discount.
Yeah.
But he loves this team so much. The couple times I got to interview him, you just can tell that he really does care for this team. In all of his interviews, he does a lot of publicity stuff. And then Chapman looks like he's going to be a leader on this team too. And so both of them, at the end of the season, after their Game 162 loss to the Cardinals, came out on the field to, I don't know, it looked like maybe a couple thousand Giants fans. It wasn't very well attended, unfortunately. And they came out on the field and said the following.
All of us down here on the field, just want to say thank you for all the energy and the support we've gotten through this season. You guys truly are the best fans in baseball, and we can't wait to see it next year.
I just want to echo what Webby said. I want to say thank you to the fans. You guys give us energy every single day. You showed up. I know that this season didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we're going to go home this offseason. We're going to get better, and you guys bring the same energy next year. And when we end the season like this next year, we're going to be going to the playoffs. We're not done.
So, look, I know they're saying what's right, but I do believe these two guys are leaders, and they really do care about this franchise. I mean, Chapman loves it here. He played in Toronto for all those years, and he wanted to sign with this team, and he did. So he believes in this team. Webby believes in this team, and now I think their loyalty has been in a way rewarded with Buster Posey now becoming president, and he's going to reward those guys, I think, by building a solid roster and surrounding himself with the talent that he needs. So I think that's really, really cool. The one thing I didn't like at the end of the season, for sure, despite losing 2 out of 3 to St. Louis, because they had a chance with a sweep to finish above 500, or win 2 out of 3 to finish it at 500, but they lost 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and they almost finished with an even run differential.
I know, that would have been like, I mean, that's the definition of mid, as the kids say today, right? Yeah. Like, so, you can't get more mid than that.
Well, yeah, we had an episode about how they're mid, and they proved it. They're mid.
They are definitely mid. But Blake Snell opted out of his final start because it didn't mean anything. And Baumel said that, and then Snell was interviewed and basically said, yeah, I mean, if we were playing a playoff team, I would have absolutely played because I like wreaking havoc. I like ruining playoff hopes for other teams. But there was nothing to play for, so I opted out. And it was kind of like, I get the Bulldog spirit of, like, playing an important game in terms of that has playoff implications. But I also just didn't like the fact that, I'm just going to sit out the last game. I don't know. It's not a big deal. It isn't. But at the same time, it just kind of like, well, yeah, but other guys made their starts too. Like, why not you? Like, are you that special? Are you protecting your arm for your big payday? Like, what's going on here?
I mean, he is, and he's also kind of earned the right, though, to make that call. Yeah. The Giants have enough young people that they can throw out there and say, all right, well, we'll give a look to this guy or something like that. And I believe him. If they were playing a team,
I do too.
Say they were playing Atlanta or something on that last weekend, I'm sure Snell would have taken that start. But the fact that they were playing the Cardinals and neither team had anything to play for, it's just a kind of a.
Hey, look, I know worst case scenario. He goes out and he hurts himself. Then, yeah, people are going to be like, well, why didn't he just take the day off? The game meant nothing.
Well, worst case for him. I mean, he's the one that,
Yeah. No, I get it. There's no benefit to starting in the sense of, like, okay. I mean, they ended up winning that particular game anyway, so it didn't affect their overall record. But, it's just weird. Anyway, I was thinking that I wonder what kind of jerseys you're going to see next year now with Posey being at the helm. You never see jerseys for general managers or president of baseball operations, but I do think that number 28 is going to find a resurgence in terms of younger kids wearing it who maybe didn't see him play as much, and I think you're going to see new variations like President Posey on the back with 28, maybe a POBO, like President of Baseball Operations acronym there on the back. You're going to see all sorts of stuff like that, I think. I mean, no one was buying Farhan jerseys.
That's true. I mean, how often, though, do you get the chance to buy the jersey of the team president?
I know, right? It just doesn't happen.
Too
it doesn't happen. Anyway,
nobody's ever going to wear 28 again. It's going to be retired eventually, too.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny that it's just always going to be
$100
Buster now.
All right, well, look, we're going to be talking in the offseason about what the Giants are going to do. We're going to see President Posey, as I'm going to call him now, put together his staff, he said, probably over the next month or so. And we'll see, because they basically start making moves after the end of the World Series, which is in November. But hey, we got playoffs, man.
And you'd like to think that some of the smart people he wants to hire are working for teams that are currently in the playoffs too. So it's going to take a little bit for those teams to get knocked out.
Yeah. It's going to take some time, and he's not going to get this staff together until like probably mid-November, maybe even a little bit after that. But we're going to look forward to what he can do, and we'll certainly talk about all the moves that they're going to make, and we may like them to make. But in the meantime, you and I do love playoff baseball, and I guess the only silver lining to the Giants not making the playoffs for me personally is the fact that my anxiety is low. It's not off the charts, because there's nothing like watching a playoff baseball game with the Giants involved, because I am an utter wreck. Even game ones, I am an absolute utter wreck. I am so nervous. My sweaty palms, the whole thing. Now I can just enjoy playoff baseball for what it is, and I can root against certain teams, which I do. Dodgers being number one, Astros are in there, Yankees are in there, rooting against them. But I don't have that level of anxiety. It's something I can just enjoy. I don't know. How do you feel about playoff baseball every year?
Well, that's how it was growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was always just the time to be in awe and be stress free. And I'll be honest with you, I miss the adrenaline. I miss the thinking about the game all day aspect of the playoffs. I 100% miss it. I wish we had it yesterday, today.
Oh, I do too.
It's been a tough year for me to really stay in tune with baseball this year.
Sure.
And so that would pull me, so much farther in. So I do. I just miss the adrenaline that goes with it. As Mauricio Dubon gets a base hit in the playoffs.
Yeah, God, rub that in a little bit.
Right. I miss that. I do miss that adrenaline, but I am with you there is always something to be said for, at least you can just kick back and watch the games.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who wins or loses. Although, I mean, like you said, by process of elimination, you end up rooting for some teams. So, I'm happy playoffs are here. It's always one of my favorite times of year, October. October is just such a great month. Football, baseball, everything's going right now. So, it's I'm excited. Like I said, I'm watching Houston, Detroit right now. So, baseball will be on the screen so much during this month.
Oh, yeah, and I love it. So I guess we got to do our obligatory picks, which, by the way, I just wanted to say real quickly, the Giants ended up with 80 wins this season, and the preseason picks, of course, I had 86. You were sitting real high with all the moves, and you were at 95. And
I bought in.
We had quite a few listeners put in here. Where do I have it? Oh, here we go. And our average was 86.5 over social media. So that was kind of right where I was. Vegas odds were 83.5. So obviously Vegas they knew better than me and you and most of our listeners. But as far as our listeners concerned, the closest we had, and I'm sorry, I don't have the name. We did have someone that guessed 82. No one was closer than that. 2 people guessed 82. And the low ball we had was a 74. We had a 74. So maybe they were more realistic than anyone. So,
well, 74 should take it because 82 went over and 74 was the closest.
That's true. If we're doing Price is Right, then 74 wins.
Price is Right rules, then whoever picked 74 was the closest to the pin.
Oh, that's
the closest to the pins, really. 82.
Yeah, pretty funny. But anyway, we have our playoff picks right now, and I didn't get Willie's in. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. But I know that we have the advantage-disadvantage of one round already being, partway complete. We had 4 games yesterday. We had Detroit at Houston, with Detroit winning game 1, KC winning game 1 in Baltimore, the Mets winning game 1 in Milwaukee, and the only home win was by the Padres over the Braves. But basically, I just asked who's going to be in the championship series, the World Series, and who's going to win it all. And so I'll just go ahead and throw my hat in the ring, and I'm trying not to let those games influence my decision. So I went with Cleveland and Baltimore. And see, Baltimore's down 1-0 right now. So see? Cleveland and Baltimore, very odd ALCS, not your traditional ALCS. And then the Padres and Phillies in the NLCS. What do you got in the championship series?
I think the Yankees take care of business against whoever they play. And I like this Detroit team. I think they play good ball the way they approach it, and they got good pitching, and good pitching stands up in the playoffs. So I got the Yankees in Detroit facing off in the American League, and then I'm going chalk in the National League. Dodgers, Phillies.
Yeah,
they've been the 2 best teams in the league all year, and I think it comes down to them.
No, 100%. I think LA has got a really good shot. Don't get me wrong. San Diego, I just think might take care of Atlanta and ride a little bit of a hot streak into the playoffs, and they knocked off the Dodgers 2 years ago, I think it was, in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I think San Diego's a dangerous team, but again, I also think San Diego's starting rotation is better than the Dodgers right now. But that Dodger lineup, obviously, it's going to be Shohei's first time in the playoffs. It's going to attract a lot of media attention. But for winning 10 out of 11 divisions, The Dodgers still don't have a, quote, real World Series win yet, so I say that in jest. Yes, I know they won the shortened season, but anyway, we won't belittle that right now. For me, myself, it was really incredible to see in the last 2-3 weeks of the season the absolute catastrophic fall of the Minnesota Twins and then the rise of the Detroit Tigers, because the Tigers were a team that when the Giants played them earlier this year, you're like, oh, that's a horrible team in the American League. The Giants should beat up on them. And then you saw them kind of just mediocrity, just like the Giants for most of the year. And before I knew it, they were like in the playoff hunt. And I'm like, wait, the Detroit Tigers are in, what? They have a chance at the play? No, oh, that's not going to happen. They're the Tigers. And Minnesota just refused to win. And Detroit kept winning. And so it was incredible to see that. In fact, Minnesota at one point had a 96% chance of getting into the postseason, and Detroit was down at like 10%, like kind of where the Giants were, and they got in. And so I agree with you, Eric, to a certain extent. The players and management feel like this is gravy, baby. They were not expected to be here. They could, pull the Giants from like 2014 and just run the table. You never know.
Imagine if they beat Houston today, that means they knock Houston out of the playoffs. Houston has been to the ALCS, not at the ALDS, the ALCS,
right?
7 straight years. And to deny them the chance to even get there is just a crazy accomplishment of them itself. But the Detroit players, they learned. Because when we saw them earlier this season, they were a dumb team.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that really stood out to me. They made dumb mistakes. And they don't make those mistakes anymore. They play good baseball, fundamental. It's for some reason they've gotten better since Javi Baez left. So it's just one of those things where you wonder if changing some players around might have helped with the culture of that clubhouse.
Yeah.
You can always wonder, but they're a fun little story. Tigers, I mean, they haven't been relevant since the Giants swept their ass out of the World Series in 2012. So
100%, and I haven't done my research, but I feel like most baseball prognosticators at the beginning of the year didn't even have Detroit on their radar as possibly making playoffs. No. So I know we didn't in our preseason picks, that's for sure. But all right, and then World Series, I have the Padres facing the Guardians with the Padres winning it all.
Talking about a World Series nobody's going to tune into.
Oh, 100%.
Jesus, I got the opposite.
That is the Fox or whoever has the World Series this year. That is Fox's worst nightmare.
Yeah, that's Atlanta Houston from a few years ago. Oh, man.
It might even be worse than that.
Oh, Washington, Houston, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Houston's still such a huge market, so putting them in any of them doesn't count. I have the exact opposite. I have the 2 largest markets, the Yankees against
You have
the Dodgers.
premier television matchup.
Yep, I have the one. I think it finally happens. The matchup everybody's wanted for years and years and years. Yankees versus Dodgers for it all. And Dodgers are going to win it all finally. I think Shohei's just not going to be denied this year. It's just he's just putting a stamp on it. But, I mean, maybe Aaron Judge won't be denied this year. But
yeah,
I'm going Giants. I'm going Giants. I'm going Yankees, Dodgers, and I'm going to pick the Dodgers to win it. Well, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm honestly rooting for San Diego and Detroit. So I want a rematch of the '84 World Series.
I mean,
that's what I'd rather see.
I believe you've just put on the TortureCast curse, like we usually do.
I hope so.
Because almost every year, one or all of us pick the Dodgers to either make or win the World Series. This might be the first year I have not picked the Dodgers to be at least in the World Series. So I've gone with them every year because, they're freaking one of the best teams every single season. And yet Dave Roberts just keeps shit in the bed. I don't know what. He just
I think Shohei is the antidote
could
for
be.
Dave.
Yeah.
He is the Imodium to stop
The
Dave
Imodium.
Roberts from shitting the bed.
It's a good metaphor. I like that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're both going the National League victor anyway. I'm going Padres, you're going Dodgers. So I don't want to see either, but clearly Padres over Dodgers. So if I were to pick
It'd be cool to have Padres move. It's kind of fun.
Oh, it's fine. I don't hate it. It's just, NL West, right? I guess if I were to pick like my most innocuous winner, I would probably have to say off the top of my head, like the Guardians, because they have the longest drought now, right? In the major leagues. So,
No. Oh yeah, they do.
Well, I
Tigers
mean,
was
Padres
84.
don't
I forgot
count
about 80.
because,
No, I forgot about 84 with the Tigers because I knew the Tigers were 46 before 84. No, yeah, 48 for the Guardians. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
so they have the longest drought right now. So, you kind of feel for them a little bit. We know what the Giants went through, right? As fans, had been since
Right.
54 and never in San Francisco. So it was kind of like that drought was lifted. Obviously, the Cubs lifted it.
Stephen Vogt's their manager. That's something to
Yeah,
get behind.
it is. I love Stephen Vogt. You have the Cubs finally ending their curse in 2016 with the aforementioned Game 4 comeback against the Giants. You had the Red Sox, obviously, in 2004 was their first championship in their longest drought. So, yeah, maybe it's time for them. So Baltimore
Everybody
wouldn't be
forgets
horrible
the White Sox
either.
in 2005.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Baltimore wouldn't be too bad. Milwaukee wouldn't be. In Milwaukee, how long has it been?
Nah, I can't pull from Milwaukee.
No, I
My
don't like
wife's
'em.
hatred of Milwaukee oozes over on me.
Right, Cubs. Duh. Can't go there. So
She hates the Brewers.
yeah, I gotcha. All right. Well, that'll be interesting to see what happens. But right now, the only game going on is Detroit and Houston, and yeah, it's 0-0 in the 6th inning. So, but like you said, Detroit scores a couple runs
Not
here.
anymore. It is 1-0 Detroit Tigers.
Oh, in play runs. Homer by Parker Meadows.
Yep, hit the foul pole.
Wow. Okay. So now we got 1-0 lead for the Tigers. Of course, the Astros still have 4 more at bats, so 4 more innings.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of swinging and missing going on in this game, which is kind of the theme of the playoffs year after year, right? In this day and age. So that's what's fun about it. I don't really know the Tigers that well either.
I don't either.
So it's fun to see.
No, a lot of these names.
It's fun to learn. This guy's carrying pizzas in the dugout after hitting a homer. I don't know what the story is behind that.
Yeah, no, this is interesting. I most of the team roster, I'm like, who are these guys? Which is really cool. So maybe they'll be the darling of the playoffs this year if they somehow beat Houston here. Because like you said, they win this game, that's it. Astros are done.
Yep.
I mean, that's it. So that's kind of crazy when you think about it. And like you said,
it is.
The Astros have become sort of that Yankee level of like, them again? I'm just tired of them. Not to mention they're cheating and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like, all right, we need them out of here. In fact, when Seattle was kind of commanding the AL West the first couple months of the season and the Astros got off to a horrible start, they were way under 500. I was actually, maybe this is the year that no, never mind. Astros came back and
I feel like that's happened like 2 or 3
Yeah.
times during this Astros run, is where it's been like, oh, this is the year that they finally suck, and then nope, they still win the division and end up in the LCS.
Yep. Always.
Yeah, this could be it.
Always the LCS, like you said, 7 years in a row. That gets a little old after a while, but all right. Well, that's gonna do it for episode 306. You can always follow us on social media at TortureCast on Twitter, like us on Facebook. You can follow us individually at ChadK21 for myself, at 2OutHits with the number 2 for Eric. And we post everything. Like I posted my little article on torturecast.com. It's one thing I want to do a little bit more this off season is some more kind of breaking down not only the move with Buster Posey, but whom he hires and what are their targets this year. Kind of break down who's going to be available. And really now it's a whole new ballgame, Eric, with Buster Posey being at the helm. I think it really does open up more possibilities for some of the traditional views of hitters not wanting to come to Oracle Park because it's harder to hit here. Maybe they're going to want to come and kind of overcome those predispositions based on the fact that Buster Posey's leading the organization. So
I'm hoping.
We'll see.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. They'll want to play for this guy. So,
but it's a brave new world.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So again, I'm not expecting the Giants to win 90 games next year, the first year under his helm, but I do expect to see improvements in terms of players wanting to come here, fan reception, stability in the roster, that kind of stuff. Maybe some more traditional signings and some more traditional development, as opposed to just that revolving door. I mean, no one churned a roster faster and more quickly than Farhan Zaidi. It really was.
We were doing
like
it the last 2
team.
years.
Yeah.
We're like, Yeah, we were pointing out 2 years ago that they the most players they'd ever used in their history, and then the next year it became more.
Yeah,
This year it wasn't as bad, and I don't know if that's because he got reined in, or I'm not sure why, but
yeah. But it's a brave new world, but we'll look forward to it. All right. Do you have anything going on that you want to talk about?
At some point, I'll be on Baseball Isn't Boring, recapping, revisiting what I talked about preseason with the
Mm-hmm.
Giants and what I was excited about. Now with this Buster news, there's all sorts of stuff to deal with, but they had to cancel on me when we were supposed to do it, so I'm not sure when that's going to come out or be doing anything. And then, as always, Giants chatter over on Facebook.
Awesome, man. So anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. I know we had a little bit of a break there. We had a really busy schedules going on, but as it turns out, the Giants fell flat on their face anyway. So there wasn't honestly
They did,
a whole
and then
lot
we
to
didn't
talk
even
about.
have to talk about we didn't even have to talk about how they fell flat on their face because they fired Farhan and replaced him with Buster for us. It was fantastic. They changed the narrative. Like we didn't even have to fake it.
Nope.
What do we pull positive from this season? Like we don't have to fake it. We're positive about Buster.
We're positive.
It's freaking
I
fantastic.
know.
Like I mean, look at all the joy he's already bringing us for being in charge. I love this. I am so excited about this affair.
100%,
All right, go
man.
Giants. Hell yeah.
I'm like a kid in a candy store too, man. I know it's honeymoon, it's first gut reaction, but it's gonna be good, guys. I think President Posey is going to bring the baseball we want back to San Francisco. So
Yeah.
that'll do it for episode 306. We'll see you probably in a couple of weeks as we recap the first section of the playoffs. I'm sure we'll be back before the World Series, and we'll go from there. But until then, I would say go Giants, but their season is over. So how about go anyone who's facing the Dodgers? We'll see you next time. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.